Welcome everyone to the Obstacle Races New Zealand podcast. And today on the show we interview Hania Aitken.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting chat. You weren't able to join me, but I had a good chat with Hannah, and she's a mother of four, a firefighter, Zeenya Clothing ambassador. She competed in the Spartan Australian teams event on the telly a couple of years back. She's completed 4 Spartan races, the one in Auckland and 3 over in Australia. And she works at the Blue Mountain Adventure Centre in the centre of the North Island. So very passionate about obstacle racing, very new to it, but certainly sounds like she wants to do a lot more of it going forward.
Yeah, it's a good interview. I didn't make it to join you for it, but I listened back to it recently and it's good. Yeah, she's quite well spoken and has some interesting thoughts, and definitely, been exposed to. She's done different races and she has some good ideas about, what she wants to see happen and about the sport. And yeah, it's good. Good episode.
So a couple of other things that have happened recently. We've had a few races, and you got to go around to the Alpha Challenge in Wanaka and run that. And I happen to have the results here. Oh, no, sorry, this is 6 kilometres. It's not men's and female, is it? It's just the 6 and the 12 kilometres. So
yes, the results they officially published were mixed.
Yeah, it's mixed.
I actually do have the results here that I've separated myself.
Yep.
I can read them if you like.
Go for it.
So in the competitive categories, there was a 6K race and the 12K race. So starting with the 6K, the female 6K, first was Isabella Woods in 55 minutes, 46 seconds. Second was Hannah Cook Gibbs in 1 hour, 26 seconds. And that was it for the 6K field, 2 females. 12K females, first was Natasha Kelly in 2 hours, 21 minutes and 4 seconds. And another limited field as well. She was the only competitor in that race, which I'll talk about it soon, my thoughts on the event. It was quite limited, the amount of entrants, just due to various reasons, but I'll explain that in a second.
Yep.
So the men's results, the men's competitive 6K, first was Evan Jane, 38 minutes, 5 seconds. Second was Jason Clark, 44 minutes, 6 seconds. And third was Alan Carmichael in 47 minutes, 35 seconds. And then the men's competitive 12K, first was, and this is a hard one to pronounce, Margin Woters, 1 hour, 19 minutes and 13 seconds. Second was Reese Cunningham, 1 hour, 20 minutes and 2 seconds. And third was myself, which is fun. So I got 1 hour, 20 minutes and 48 seconds.
So you're only a few seconds behind Reese.
Yes. Yeah, about, 40 seconds behind him? Yeah, and he was about that far behind Margin as well.
Yeah, about that.
Some interesting things that happened during that race I'll talk about that soon. I'll give all my thoughts on the race. And
because there was adaptive races and school kids and all that too, wasn't there?
There was, yep. So there was a high school race. I've got the results here for that. Would you like me to read that as well?
Oh, yeah, we might as well.
Yeah, so the female high school 6K. I believe the high school students just did a 6K. There wasn't a 12K option. So first female was Laia McTaggart in 57 minutes and 41 seconds. And again, looks like a limited field. She was the only female listed. The male high school 6K, first was Sam Soper, 39 minutes, 7 seconds. Second was Hugh Ragg in 42 minutes, 29 seconds. The third was Lucas Paru in 45 minutes, 57 seconds. And then beyond that, there was also open waves. So there was an open 6K, open 12K, and a 4-hour teams relay. But they haven't had results published for those ones yet. And I think there was a kids race as well. I'm pretty sure I saw a whole bunch of young kids going off at one point. So it was good. Should I move into my thoughts on the event?
Yes, go for it.
It was awesome, like awesome event. I really enjoyed it. Definitely recommend it. Like I'd love to see it grow and just yeah, I recommend everyone go down next year. And this is only their second year for the event. So it was a small scale event when I went down. There were, I think, almost 200 people entered. But due to COVID, apparently quite impacted their numbers. We're just coming out of COVID and they happened just on the switch over to the COVID protection framework, the new traffic light systems. I think a lot of people were uncertain about that. And there were people from Auckland as well who couldn't fly down because Auckland's border was still shut when the race happened. I don't know how many people they had last year, but I think this year was a bit limited just due to COVID. And it rained, unfortunately, during the event as well. So it felt like, a lot of people didn't hang out afterwards in the festival area. The festival area itself was good setup. Like it's, the whole venue is not too far out of Wanaka, so it's drivable. And you got a view over the lake and the mountains in the background. It's pretty amazing. And the festival area is on like a central grass field, and you've got a bar down one end of it, like a built-in bar, because they also host weddings and things on the venue. So they got a bar down there, and then the other end of the field's like the toilet block. And in between they had, tents set up for everyone to hang out, and you got this flat field, and then you got a view from the field down to the rig. So you can watch people doing the rig, and then they run up the hill to the finish line. So a cool setup for it. Unfortunately, with the rain, there weren't too many spectators. But I think it was set up perfectly to have that spectator view of the rig. It was awesome. It was a showstopper obstacle. And what else? Oh yeah, finisher medals. Like you got a custom finisher medal, which is cut out in a mountain shape, which is their logo for the race. So it's pretty cool to see that medal and to see that it's like a non-standard. It's not one of your generic like circle medals. Yep. So it's cool that they got that made. It's cool to receive that. Andrew, one of the organisers we interviewed on the podcast a while back, had him on the microphone, the loudspeaker. So I think races that have the loudspeaker in the festival area are awesome because it's a bit of vibe to it, a lot more excitement. So he was talking the whole time. That was cool. And yeah, they got coffee carts, or a coffee cart and a food truck, and I think definitely room for growth. There's more room for food trucks and more room for things in the festival area, and there was only 2 toilets built into the toilet block, but definitely more room to bring in portaloos and set the whole thing up. And the course, so what I understand was the course was completely different from last year. I don't know what last year was, but apparently this course, they reversed the direction, it went backwards, and it was quite a hard course, hard terrain. So it was 12K competitive race is the one I entered. According to my Strava, I clocked it in at just over 11K and 635 meters of elevation.
Ooh, that's all right.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is there were no long hills. There were no big hills.
Yeah, just all lots of little up and down.
Yes, so 600 meters of up and down, like little undulations, and that's what made it so damn hard. Was there was no sustained climbing where you like get into gear, get into the zone, and then no sustained downhills when you can open up. There's just so many up and downs. Like I think there was no flat places on the course at all. Like maybe you run down a driveway to the rig for 20 meters. Like maybe that was the only flat part of the course. So it was brutal, the terrain. Awesome though, really fun. A lot of variation too, because you're changing from grass to going under these trees like pine needles at one point, to driveways, to fields, to in the woods, to a lot of really technical sections, like sections where it's holes everywhere, potholes, and you're on a farm. So lots of variation, lots of technical, lots of having to watch your feet the whole way. It was cool. And the obstacles were awesome as well. So definitely quality obstacles at Alpha Challenge. There was a good mix, I think, a good mix of technical. So they had like the rig, the rope climb, there's a Z wall, and strength as well. Good mix of strength obstacles in there. They had 4 carries, I believe. So bucket carry, sandbag carry, tire carry, and a tire drag. And there were box jumps as well, and slam balls as well. 30 box jumps, 30 slam balls. I think it might have been 15 for the 6K, maybe. I don't know, I had to do 30, but I think some people came up and had to do 15. And then a mix of basic obstacles, they're just walls and mud pits and those sort of things as well. And probably one of my favorite things about the obstacle design, looking back at it, was they combined obstacles. So there were often obstacles back to back. Like you do an obstacle, run 5 meters, do an obstacle. And some of the obstacles were literally, like you do one, go 2 meters into an obstacle.
Well, looking at the photos, the Z wall looks like it went straight onto a balance beam, did it?
It did, yes.
Very close.
Yes, the Z wall was one of the best ones, yeah. So it was a Z wall, Spartan style, where it's a zigzag and you climb along the little holds, you traverse along it sideways. And then there's a balance beam attached to the end. So you go straight onto the balance beam. It's a Z-shaped balance beam. Then you go onto a second Z wall. Awesome mix of climbing, straight to balancing, straight to climbing. And they did the same thing as well with the monkey bars. Similar. So you had the monkey bars, and then there was a few meters of flat ground, 5 meters, and then you go straight into a slackline balance. So it's cool the combination of like upper body and lower body balancing. And just before the Z wall as well was a mud pit, and before that was a rope climb. So you come in, do the rope climb, use your upper body and your feet. A few meters afterwards is a mud pit, and the mud pits go straight into a barbed wire crawl. It wasn't spiked barbed wire, but a crawl into barbed wire. And then you come into the Z walls, and just awesome that they were putting obstacles back to back, and that they were different types of obstacles. So you're challenging, upper body and lower body, and balance and crawling and climbing. And I really love that. I really love the way they spaced the obstacles throughout the course and then combined some of them together. The one downside I would think is they need more lanes on the obstacles. So most of them were 2 lanes. They only had 2 sections.
Yep.
And then the rig was only 1 lane. Well, it did have 2 lanes, but they were both different, which is a cool concept. But you did 1 lane, did a lap, did the second lane.
Oh, okay.
So it ran into problems and missed opportunities in the competitive race. But I want to get into that. Would be cool. I can talk about this lots. But do you mind if I quickly just talk about the competitive race?
I just want to ask you, did you have a go at the moonhoppers as the penalty loop? I thought that was quite neat.
Yeah, it was interesting. No, I didn't ever go at the moonhoppers myself. If you fell off the rig, you had to do moonhoppers.
Moonhoppers.
That was fun. I was talking to we'll play it after this. I recorded some interviews for the podcast. I can't remember if I got it on tape though. But talking to one of the guys who did fell off, and he was like, the worst thing about it was the humiliation. It was so funny. Because an easy penalty, having to bounce along on this thing, but it feels a bit silly, which I guess is the fun of it. Some people probably love that. Some people probably hate it.
Yes. Oh, no. Delve into the elite carry. Yep, go for it.
So the elites, we started first thing in the morning. So the competitive is what they named it, but we can call it elites just to keep the terminology consistent across, Spartan and other races as well. So when we started, I was running in 5th place. I was just behind Margin, who, as we know from the results, finished 1st. But he was just in front of me, coming 4th. And we'd just come out of the box jumps. I was onto a tyre, but 30 jumps up into a tyre. Then you go straight into 30 slam balls. Then you go straight across a water crossing. So we just come out of that, and you go up a small hill, and he stops at the top, and I'm like 20 seconds behind him at this point. And I get up to the top, and I stop as well. And he says he just saw the top 3 guys go off, run to the right after the hill, and he thinks they went the wrong way. So we're both standing up there, like fully stopped running, and we can't see a course marking anywhere. But the fence line, we're just like within a gate at the top of the hill, and the fence runs off to the right and the left. So he tells me he thinks the course is meant to go left, but we're looking around and we can't see any flags, which is frustrating. So he turned to me and asked my opinion on which way we should go. And I'm like, he was pretty confident it was left, and I was thinking if we went right, everyone after us would follow us, and we'd just compound the potential mistake. Yeah. So I said to go left, and he's like, okay. So we ran off left, and ran across this field and over another hill or something, and then we come across the monkey bars. So we're like, oh, I feel we did go the correct way. So we do the monkey bars and the slack line, and then we run further along, and then we run into the other three guys running back towards us on the course, and they see us and they're like, oh shit. Like, they realized they were going the wrong way. So they ran back and did the obstacles and then turned around, followed us again, corrected their mistake. But yeah, there was a defining moment of the race, I think, was those three taking a wrong turn. It took about, suddenly I was in second place, Margin was in first place, and it took about a whole lap of the course, about just before that point, for Reese, to close the gap and to pass me.
So he was one of the ones that went the wrong way, or?
Yeah, so Reese was first at that point. He was leading, so he went the wrong way. Two guys followed him.
Yeah.
And then this was about a third of the way through the first lap. And so we completed the whole rest of the lap up until just before that point. No one was following us. It was just us two. And then Reese catches up and manages to pass me, which is insane. Like that he closed that gap, because they would have lost a few minutes on that turnaround. Yeah, and I interview Reese in the interview, which we'll play shortly. But Reese talks about his thoughts on it. And we come up to that point again in the second lap, top of that hill, and they put a course marker in pointing in the right direction, which is cool. So obviously the organisers realised that there was a problem there and they fixed it before the end of the race. But unfortunately it wasn't in place at the start of the race. On the single lane idea on the rig, Margin was a little bit in front of me for most of that lap, but he was like awesome runner, but a little bit slower on the obstacles. So he gets to that first rig, and I come up behind him, and I'm taking a breather, waiting for him to complete it. He's going across it quite slowly, and as he gets near the end, I jump on and get across it. And talking to Reese afterwards, Reese was saying the same thing, where as they're coming to the finish line, he's 30 seconds or so behind Margin, and he sees Margin jump up on the rig, and knew that was his passing opportunity. But because there was a single lane, he couldn't do it. So I remember Reese talking about he could have sprinted at that point. He had the energy to sprint, to jump on and pass them, and then go up the final hill to the finish line at the top of the hill. So I feel like they had this awesome rig, well positioned for spectators, but they sort of missed the opportunity to have multiple lanes where you get that awesome spectator-friendly moment where you have position changes just before the finish line. Potentially I could have passed them just before the finish of the first lap. I wouldn't have been able to hold on to that lead because he was a faster runner than me, but I could have passed him right before the finish of the first lap. And then Reese was saying he could have done the same thing just before the finish of the whole race and could have come in first place. So I think it's one thing they could work on in the future, is to have those moments where, for film or for spectators or for entertainment value, those position changes within a view of the audience on the obstacles is awesome moment. You can't build that sort of entertainment into it.
So did you give him feedback on that, or have you mentioned it to him? Or
no, I haven't yet. Been meaning to send the organisers an email on my feedback.
Yeah.
So
I think they're pretty open to it. Kim sent me a bit of an email on how it all went, and she didn't go into the depth you did, but she just said that there was a lot of returning people. They were very disappointed in that a lot of out-of-towners just couldn't come because of the uncertainty with the traffic light system, and Auckland was still in lockdown, so for another week, so for those sorts of things. But and then the Mint Collective Adaptive race took place. Didn't really give me a lot on that, but she said it was one of the best things was watching them smiling across the finish line, and also humbling and inspiring to seeing them getting out there and tackling it. And the Blast Police kids program, I don't know if you've seen that or talked to them, any of them.
Okay, yeah, there were people in police uniforms. I was trying to figure out if they were police or they were just costumes, but
apparently they were, and they did a lot of the organising for the high school school race. It was called the Blast Police kids program, and teamwork. Yeah, so it certainly sounded like it was good. And event number 3 is going to be the 3rd of December next year.
Yes, yeah, I definitely recommend people get along to it. It's a quality event, and oh yeah, I forgot to mention everyone was so friendly as well in the race that there was a couple of like, out and back sections when you go turn around a point, come back.
Come back.
So there's one run right at the start line just to spread out the field, but yeah, during the race it was awesome. You come around that loop and everyone high-fiving each other, and the bucket carry, sorry, you carry it up, go around a point and come back. And like I was starting to lag at that point, and Margin passes me and he's in first place, and he passes me on the way back, and shouts some words of encouragement. Basically tells me to keep running faster. But that was so awesome. Like, it's awesome that I love those moments where you loop around each other and everyone sort of pushes each other on. Yeah, it was cool atmosphere. Now what we're going to do is cut to a special new feature on the podcast. It is our first time attempting to record on site, on location, at a race. So after running Alpha Challenge, I went around with my cell phone recording some interviews with some of the competitive racers. It was on my cell phone, so hopefully the audio has turned out, and as we roll forward in the future, it would be cool to record at more races and get better recording equipment, so bear with us for this first attempt. There was an interview I recorded with Natasha Kelly that the audio didn't come out, so apologies for that. I'm here on site at Alpha Challenge in Wanaka. Just arrived in the morning. Everyone's arriving, warming up for the first race of the day, and it's currently raining at the moment, which is a bit of a shame and a bit of good fun. It's going to be some slippery monkey bars and rigs out there. A bit of a mixed bag. Will be fun to watch, not so fun to do. After the race, I'll run around, interview some people, see everyone's thoughts about the event. Yes, at Alpha Challenge now, standing here with Martin McConay. What are your thoughts on the event?
Well, considering the lockdown and all the hard rules with the traffic light system and the weather, they've actually done quite well. Good encouraging signs with the number of young kids here. Yes, unfortunately the numbers were down, but spread quite well across all the various waves they were doing. A few minor hiccups, but the course was definitely very challenging just from looking at it, even though I jogged a few parts, but from what I heard, they actually did make it harder than last year's course, so hence why times were probably a little bit slower if you compare to last year's times. And as you say, having run it yourself, Max, a few little hiccups, but apart from that, I think it's proved to be quite a good challenging course. And
it was hard, yeah. I think my time was 1:40, is that what I said?
Yeah.
But looking at last year, I think the top guys finished in about an hour.
Yeah, it was a lot
harder.
She said it was a lot easier, the course last year, and their feedback was that they wanted it harder, so they said, right, we'll give you harder, and I think they came through with that quite nicely.
Do you want to tell us your name and tell us how the event went for you?
Dion, just been doing a 12k competitive, went reasonably well. Definitely some deficiencies in the training to work on for next time, just to get better on the terrain. A little bit more wet obstacle training, I think, is definitely a big thing to need to work on. The rock climbing doesn't really translate that well to wet bars, and all of the practice I've been doing with the rope climbs at home wasn't really a great deal of help when I couldn't actually get my feet to lock in, so basically broke my arms out doing the rope climbs legless, and then tried to get to the last rig only half a k later and just didn't have the pull strength left on that first lap to get through without the penalty. So the worst part about the penalty was the humiliation of having to bounce along there on the wee playground toys.
Yeah, that was an interesting penalty, that one.
I had to give them points for creativity, so that was interesting.
I've never seen that one before. So, what was harder for you, the obstacles or the terrain? Well, they were both really energy sapping.
I think the terrain, really.
Yeah.
The obstacles, I would say, weren't that bad. It was really just that last rig. Even the second lane through it was pretty reasonable, really. Those ropes weren't that difficult. It was just that first one.
Yeah.
That even if we had a bigger rest beforehand, probably would have been okay, but it was just trying to do those things back to back. I just didn't have the grit left to get through the end of that with that last set of rings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something to work on for next time.
Yeah. I'm keen for next year, and this is only their second year, and sounds like it keeps improving. And sounds like it was a lot harder this year, right? You ran last year.
Yeah, last year was pretty straightforward. The obstacles weren't technical at all, so they definitely stepped that up.
There's some technical ones this year.
Oh yeah, it was interesting what they've done with the Z-wall, putting the balance beam in the middle of it just to break that up. And especially with how muddy it was with rolling mud straight into that, to then have the more balancing aspect of it put in.
Yeah, I like that on the Z-wall, because you went climbing straight to balancing, straight to climbing again.
Yeah, with absolutely soaked muddy shoes.
Yeah.
It was, you had to just be a little bit more aware of what you were doing and trying to actually get a decent grip.
Yeah. Yeah, well, cheers. Cheers for that.
No worries.
I'm Reece Cunningham, second place getter at the Alpha Challenge.
Nice. Although, you would have been first place.
Potentially. I mean, Martin was pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Anything can happen. It's obstacle racing, right?
Yeah.
Thoughts on the race? It was awesome. Great. Course is set up pretty well. Lots of varying terrain, like technicality from the running through the pine trees, like rabbit holes and branches everywhere, to running down the crushed gravel roads and then back into the farmlands. Like, it's varying, technical and fun.
Yeah, so much variation and just the constant change was hard too. There's no way you could really get into a rhythm.
No, and then that's what obstacle racing is as well, right? It's like being able to survive the suck fest of not being able to get into a rhythm.
Yeah.
And then a good amount of like technical obstacles as well. The multi-rig that we're looking at down there is awesome. Definitely need more of that in New Zealand.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Did you fail any obstacles?
No.
Nice.
So pretty happy about it, especially while it was raining.
Yeah.
Got close on the slack line. Did a little bit of matrix action. But yeah, managed to get through unscathed. So yeah, fantastic course, great time.
Absolutely, good course, and it's a little bit of an upset, I think, because you guys, I was running the competitive with you, and I was coming in 5th place or something. But get to the top of a hill, and the guy in front of me was like, "Oh, they went the wrong way." So you and some other guys went the wrong way at one point.
Yeah, well, we come out of the water obstacle, and we were told to go right. So we went right until we found a piece of tape, and then we followed that piece of tape along. But that was at the wrong end of the loop that we were supposed to not go as far right on. So I think we ended up doing an extra 500 or 600 metres before being told that we'd gone the wrong way. So we sort of tracked our way back, did the monkey bars and that slackline obstacle that we'd accidentally skipped. And then took me, and that was halfway through the first lap.
Yeah.
And then it took to about that same point at the next lap to catch up. And then I guess we saw Martin and myself sort of pulled away. There's a lot of power in those legs, and the hill climbing ability of them is insane. And then it was races on. I sort of, there's a K or two where I'd given up. Yeah. And then you sort of you get that second win. It's like, just got to rip shit and bust, and you're out here to do it for yourself. You're not, it's not, you're fucked up. You got to own it and move on and push through it. So just flip the old brain into overdrive and see if the legs can keep up.
And that is part of obstacle racing too. It's unfortunate, but running off-road terrain, sometimes the course markings aren't the best. And
100%. And marshals are never 100% reliable. The blame's on me. It's not a marshal fault, but it is what it is. We should have just been more aware, or understood the race course slightly more better. That's on us, and probably on me a bit more for leading the other two astray.
So what happened to the other two? Were they 6K?
No, they're 12K.
Okay. So they didn't catch the gap. Oh, they didn't catch up and close the gap.
No, we were together until the mud pit, and then after that mud pit and the Z-wall, I got a bit of separation on them, and then I saw you guys, and then I think I said to you at the time, "I'm coming for you, Max."
Yeah.
And then I just put the foot down and got through that multi-rig pretty quick. and then that was then just I was basically just behind you at the end of that, so it was
okay.
Right.
Oh yeah, because you're definitely faster than me. You closed the gap and passed me, and I remember looking over my shoulder and there's no one behind me. So I'm like, where'd those other two guys go?
Yeah,
but I guess they just didn't recover from that. Wrong direction.
Not too sure. I haven't actually talked to them. I should probably go find them and see what happened.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, they crossed the line in happy enough spirits. So
yeah,
that's all you can ask for.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's part of it. Part of the experience. Part of obstacle racing.
Yeah, and like shit happens, right? And it's like how you react and deal with it and push on, as opposed to like. And I think we all did that. No one's out here blaming anyone. There's no complaints. Like you just got to suck it up and move on and do what you can. And here we are.
Evan Jane, yeah, it's a good event. It was a bit of fun. Normally I do like obstacle racing in Australia, but I'm over here at the minute, stuck in New Zealand. So
another couple coming up
really
that finish shoot after a good honest morning's work.
Hopefully we can hear you over that loudspeaker.
Bring it on up. Well done, everybody. Huge effort, guys. Well done.
Kind of is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. So you've done Spartans and stuff in Australia?
Yeah. So I was actually invited to the World Champs for the Spartan racing, which was on last week, but obviously couldn't get to Abu Dhabi for that. So second best thing was here in Monaco, and it's been an awesome event. So really cool.
Oh well. You done some of the other obstacle races around New Zealand?
No. This is the first one. Normally I just do all like the Spartan races in Australia, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
I haven't been back in New Zealand for quite some time, so it's been pretty cool.
Okay. So are you a Kiwi?
Kiwi originally, yeah, from Taranaki. But
okay.
yeah, been living in Australia and working there for like the last 8 years.
Okay.
So yeah, come home for the snow season and then kind of got stuck here, and now really enjoying Monaco. So
okay.
It's awesome.
Well, nice to meet you. Yeah, because they're perfect.
High schoolers with their last rig. Space hopping for glory. Look at them go.
And Space Hop is hilarious.
Yeah, it's just.
I was going to say, you're perfect for, we just started an Obstacle Racing New Zealand podcast.
Oh, awesome.
But we're trying to interview Kiwis into obstacle racing.
Yeah.
And especially get the thoughts of Kiwis who are overseas and seen some of the larger scale races overseas.
Yeah.
So you're perfect, getting your thoughts on like the Australian races, and because in New Zealand it's still so
Hang on, Taz,
small.
bring it on up.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's only one stage here for the Spartan race, isn't there?
The
there's like an
one,
Auckland one.
the only female 12
they really put on like a big show for the Spartan race.
Coming up
kind of
the finish
awesome.
shift.
All the ones I've
Like
been to,
many
there's a
you
couple
put
of
in a
thousand
monster
people turn
shift.
up, which is pretty
Come on, girl, all those
unbelievable,
legs are
but it's
looking
all
good.
sort of
Come on,
based
everybody.
off,
Bring it
how
on
how
up.
the Yanks do it. So the Americans started it, and it's all sort of kicked off from there. But they kind of make it like a giant party, and it works out well. Obviously, there's a little bit smaller scale, but
Well done, girl.
I think the
Great
locals have all
effort.
turned out for it, so it's real cool.
Another event that's happened a little while ago now, actually, was the Spartan World Championships in the UAE. We had Jeremy Robinson, a Kiwi who lives over there, on just before the event, and he raved about it. It looks all right. He came about 400 and something in the beast, but he did promise that he would send over some words of encouragement and everything. So we'll bring them to you at another podcast, another intro, or we may even get him back on in a week in the new year and have a good chat to him about the whole race.
Yeah, for sure.
But the World Championships results were Ryan Atkins won it in 2 hours and 13 minutes and 40 seconds. Sergei Perigin was second in 2 hours, 14 minutes and 12 seconds, which is less than a minute, which is pretty good after 2 hours of running 21 kilometres. And third was the Brit Jonathan Elvon, who I believe has won it before as well. He did it in 2 hours, 20:04. The women was Lindsay Webster, Annie Duby and Elise Petrova. And I'm just trying to find why I don't have their... Lindsay Webster did it in 2 hours, 38 minutes and 54 seconds, a good half an hour behind her husband. Annie did it in 2 hours, 41:22, so she was close to 3 minutes behind Lindsay, and Alicia did it in 2 hours 43, so she was another 2 minutes behind. But the interesting thing is Lindsay Webster came 10th overall, Annie was 12th overall, and Alicia was 14th overall. The women certainly did pretty well.
Yeah, I've been watching the race on Spartan's coverage they just released, actually.
Yes.
It's
yeah,
cool. First time I've actually watched a Spartan World Championships.
Oh, okay.
It's cool to watch it, and crazy in that sand. Like,
it
just slow down the running so much. And
they do a good job now. They're getting really good with their filming, and the rabbits running around behind everyone with the cameras.
Yes.
But one thing I did notice is the men, there was no American men and no UAE men in the top 10, which I thought there would have been a few. The women, Annie Doobies from the US, and Iva Karalik is from the UAE, and she got 10th overall for women. So there was a couple of them there.
Which is interesting, especially no locals. Being used to that sand, I thought would have given them an advantage. But interesting to see when up against the international field, who comes out on top.
Yes, hopefully they'll hold it there again next year, and everybody can go. It won't be just the few that are willing to forego COVID restrictions and lockdowns and stuff like that. But it was good to see Ryan Atkins finally win instead of, I don't know how many five previous second places he's had.
Yeah.
And Annie Doobie she was her first year. She was a rookie, so she did really well.
No, really, wow. And then of course, Ryan Atkins and Lindsay Webster are a couple. Are they married, husband and wife?
Yep.
Yeah, so they were first male, first female. It's quite an accomplishment. Yeah, I definitely recommend people watch Spartan's videos on YouTube. It's very cool to see the coverage of the men's race and the women's race. And yeah, I'm only partway through the women's at the moment, but that's probably the more exciting one to watch, actually. Because in the men's race, Ryan Atkins got out in front and then maintained it the whole way. In the women's race, there was back and forth, and the top.
Sergey must have got in front at one stage, because I did watch the interview, which is quite funny if you do get a chance. And I don't know if it was on the Spartan thing, but it's on the obstacle racing media page. They were interviewing, and he said, "Yeah, Sergey passed him." And he said, "No, not this year. You're not taking it away from me. I'm going to do whatever it takes to break myself if I have to get there." And just reading the page, him and John Albin have been racing against in the championships for 7 years. It's the first time Ryan's beaten Albin.
Yeah, actually, Albin, Ryan Atkins. They did, in the Spartan coverage, have him at the finish line, ask him about that, and he starts crying, really, really emotional when he talks about being passed, and he wasn't going to let that stop him. It was intense to watch. And
I listened to a podcast, and they were interviewing Lindsay Webster, and one of the things she said that she was, I forget which obstacle, the monkey bars, one of the ones that you had to swing through, and she heard over the radio of the cameraman that Ryan had just won. And she had to stop mid-swing and just take it all in, because she reckons if she carried on, she would have fallen. But she said that certainly joyed her on and got her over the finish line as well. So the next thing we had on our little chat sheet was 2022. What's coming up, what we know of, and stuff like that. So we know that Ultimate Athlete's got 2 events. The Warrior is a good chance it's going to be on again. We're a Warrior.
Yeah, well, on Ultimate Athlete, actually. So two events that have been announced publicly.
Yes.
But we do know there's more coming. We do know they're going national.
There's a third one coming, yes.
There's a third one coming, yep. Which I believe we can talk about. I don't think that's been announced.
Oh, okay.
But we've heard about that. Yeah, so that they are doing an AIMS Games race.
Yep.
The AIMS Games, I had to look it up here, so stands for the Association of Intermediate and Middle Schools.
Middle schools.
It's the biggest sporting event for 11 to 13-year-olds in the country.
Yes.
So obstacle racing has been accepted into that this year under Ultimate Athlete. So that's exciting.
That is, yeah. That's a good way of getting grassroots involved.
And then we've also heard that there's more Ultimate Athletes coming in 2022. We're not meant to talk about that yet. So it is exciting. There's definitely more coming. They are definitely expanding, which is cool.
Expanding, yep. And we'll get Gavin on as early as we can in the new year, and he can explain it all to us.
Yeah.
And then we've got the Spartan, the Sprint, the Super, and a trail race happening in May. We've mentioned Alpha Challenge on the 3rd of December next year, to mark that in your calendar. They're the only ones I know of at the moment. Warrior Dash will be back too, but I don't know the date of that. I presume Martin's going to be having that again.
Yeah.
He had to cancel it this year. Wanaka?
Yep.
Wanaka Dash, sorry.
Of course, New Zealand's moved over to the traffic light COVID system, which means a return of events. I imagine sporting events are going to be coming back in 2022, and it would be good, not this episode because we've already talked a lot, but to go over the COVID traffic light framework and what that means for events. Yeah.
Events. Yeah. Do you want to say anything on the Spartan age groups? I see you put an email a thing out on the Facebook group the other day about that, because it is very confusing. I think there's a lot of people confused out there about it.
Yeah. So I think I heard from you on this podcast that Spartan New Zealand only runs 3 age groups, whereas around the world there's 10. I think it's 10 age groups.
Yeah, 10 age groups. Well, they did when the last one they had here had everything. This year, when I got my cancellation from 20 to 21, and now it's moved to 22, they say it's just 40 plus, and I sent that back, and she said, "Oh, that's the new framework." And I went, "Oh."
Yeah, and then it's very confusing. And then looking into Spartan World Championship qualifications is what got me confused, because Auckland is going to be a direct qualifier for the World Championships, and that the top in each age group qualify. So I was like, if New Zealand has different age groups, how do you qualify for the Worlds when they both run different categories? So I emailed Spartan about it, and their reply was, New Zealand does run the 10 age groups. However, sign up is under 3 age groups, which is makes no sense.
It's very confusing.
Why would you do it that way? Why do you choose one age group when you sign up and then you run under a different age group? And I emailed them back saying that. I emailed them back saying, why don't you just have people sign up under their actual age group, or why don't you... Oh, their response was they wanted to combine start waves. So they wanted 3 start waves for age groups. So they listed 3 age groups, 3 start times. And I emailed them back being like, why don't you just sign people up under their actual age group and then email them their start wave, like every other freaking race does? Like,
yeah. It is very confusing.
I don't know why they do it that way. It's
yes, they're hard to work out what they do half the time, or why they do things.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they're doing that here, and I don't know if they do it in Australia either. It's definitely the case for New Zealand. I don't know what the Australian age groups are.
If it's part of the World Championships, they've got to be the same as, and it is a franchise, so it's got to be the same as why you would just, it doesn't even make sense. It's not even a clerical or admin thing that's going to make it any easier. It's like,
no.
Just confuses everybody.
Makes 0 sense. So if anyone out there is listening and is thinking about running age group at Spartan Auckland, like the age group you register for is not your age group. So the age group listed on their website and the one you choose upon registration, nothing. It means nothing. You're still running under your regular Spartan age group, which is the 10 age groups, which are, I can't remember what they are. I have to look up exactly, but it's the same internationally.
Yeah.
But, what you register for means nothing except for the start time. Your start time is linked up to your registration age group. Your registration age group means nothing after you click it. Just disregard it.
All right, well, shall we wrap this up and get to our interview from this week, or our discussion with Hannah? And everybody have a really good Happy New Year and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Steve Steady. My regular host, Max Bell, is unable to be with us tonight. Tonight's guest is Hania Aitken, who, according to her Insta and Facebook page, is a mother of 4, Australian Spartan competitor, a firefighter, an OCR enthusiast, a brand ambassador for Zeenya Clothing, outdoor instructor, and a certified trainer at Peach Fitness. I don't know how she gets time to do anything else. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. That's okay. So to start off with, can we just get a bit of a background on where you grew up and where you're from?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Australia. I try to hide my accent so you can't tell, but people can still tell.
Whereabouts?
Northern New South Wales. So inland from the coast, a couple of hours, little tiny town called Tenterfield. 3,000 people, you know, not much going on, but quite a nice part of the country. So.
And married a Kiwi and moved here.
Married a Kiwi and moved here. So that was back in 2000, I think we moved to New Zealand. So been here for over 20 years. So I think I do call myself a Kiwi, but it's a fine line, isn't it?
How about when the rugby's on?
Oh, when the rugby's on, it depends. If there's no other Aussies in the room, then I'll represent Australia. But if there's anyone else, I'll just totally go for the Kiwis. I mean, the All Blacks, come on. They're like the best.
I'm from Perth, at any rate, and did the same thing. Met my wife in 2000. But I met her here in New Zealand. We lived here for a while, moved back to Australia.
Yes. Then
we went sailing for a little while, and now we've moved back again. We've been here since 2015.
Oh, wow. Oh, there's a similar story then. So that's how I came to New Zealand. And, we did a bit of travel pre-children. So married for 7 years before we had kids. And I've always loved sport. And I've always been super competitive, not competitive like with a bad attitude. I like to consider myself a good sport. I can lose. If it's a fair game, I'm happy to lose, you know, but if there's any cheating going on, then look out. For me, I didn't discover OCR until after I had my 3rd child, and a friend asked me whether I'd like to just do a bit of training and do a tough guy gal challenge, just a 6K loop with a few little sort of simple type obstacles thrown in, and I absolutely loved it. And so from there I had one more child, which, you know, every time you have a child as a woman, that puts a bit of a spanner in the works as far as like what your body's able to do. So after I'd had my 4th baby, I thought I would like to do a little bit more of that, and I'd like to tick off a half marathon. And I started to train, and I just realized I had zero strength, like just nothing. So I was like, I think I need to do some strength stuff or I'm going to fall apart. I have no core. So I started really slow. I think I started being able to do like 5 push-ups on my knees, and I was dead, like my arms were dead. But slowly but surely in this training for this half marathon and another tough guy gal kind of in the works, I started to realize that strength was a real game changer. And, I could pick up my children and it didn't feel like my insides were going to fall out. And I was like, this is amazing. And I did my first full pull-up, and I could have just been like, I was just like over the moon. I was so stoked. And it was at that time that I saw an ad on TV for the Australian Spartan TV show. And they were looking for teams of 3, and they wanted, Kiwi representation. And I was like, I would just love to do that. And my husband, bless him, he was like, oh, honey, I think they're looking for like really strong people. Super encouraging. But I think
very encouraging.
Just trying to be a little bit realistic. Like, it's really good that you can do a pull-up, but I don't think you're quite what they're after. But with a little bit of twisting of arms, I managed to scrounge together this team. And I was like, look, at the end of the day, they'll say no if they don't want us. So we got an audition, and we failed their fitness test because it was intense. Like, my husband was right. What they were after was next level. But in any case, we ended up getting a call up 2 weeks before the actual thing was due to be filmed, they'd had so many teams pull out. They were like, can you guys be a filler-inner? Sort of thinking, oh, they probably won't do too well. So they didn't bother doing a backstory or any of that. And we were like, we don't care. We just want to go and play on this course because it looks amazing. And so, yeah, we turned up and we had zero expectation. I mean, there were Olympic athletes there, and it was 2 mums and a teacher basically who were made up our Spartan team. And our goal was to solely touch each and every obstacle. So we were like, stuff the timer, let's just try and get on each obstacle without being eliminated. And we managed to do that. So we were just so stoked, which put us through to the semi-finals. And sadly there, we were like, oh my gosh, we could actually do something here. And we rushed and then fell off an obstacle. And that was the end of that. But yeah, for me, obstacle course racing was so much more than just a run. Like, I did my half marathon and I was kind of like, yeah, I don't really feel like I enjoyed it, but kind of on a really boring level. Whereas obstacle course racing is just, it's so exciting. And it across the board, you know, you might not be super fast, but you've got great upper body strength. And so it kind of evens the playing field out. And I just love that everybody's got a chance to use what they can bring to the table as their strength. And I just think it's a real cool sport for that reason, that it's a real equalizer in that sense. And obviously there's people that are just amazing all round. But yeah, I'm really passionate about it, and I try and, you know, twist arms as much as I can to get people to join me on various races. But yeah, I love it.
Yes, you certainly sound enthusiastic, and a lot of things you've said is quite true. Yeah, it's a great leveler. It is also very much not a team sport, but a group sport in the open waves. That I do love that side of things.
Yes,
like,
yes.
You get a group of yous going along, and the last one, you always make sure everyone gets through. And
it is. It's beautiful. It's people coming together, even if you don't know somebody. You just join up and help out, and yeah, it is. It's lovely. It's awesome.
So when was the Spartan Australia TV show?
So that, I think it was filmed in December 2017, and then it aired, I think, May 2018.
All right. Yeah. I have heard of it, and I must admit I've never watched it. So
yeah, I think you can still access maybe the second season on demand, which I believe Kiwis won the second season, so yeah, that's quite cool.
Max would know all about that. He's right into that, and Ninja and all those.
Yes.
I come from a running background. I hate running on the roads. I've done the Auckland Marathon, but I hated that.
Right.
I love trail running. I see we've done the GOAT together. You were in the GOAT.
Yeah, I did the GOAT last year, and man, that was a bit of a killer of a run. But as a run, like, it's obviously on the trail is so much better than on the road. Like, I agree with you. Like, road running, no, thank you.
We've signed up. We're going back to the GOAT. Hopefully, if it happens.
Oh, I know. We're living in strange times as far as events go. All my events have been cancelled, so I'm just like, at the moment, I'm hanging out potentially for the Orewa Ultimate Athlete, but I'm reluctant to enter until we get closer to and just see whether it's actually going to go ahead.
Yes, it will be interesting, because I've signed up for that as well, but signed up to do the exterior race in Waihi through the Karangaki Gorge.
Okay.
Which is 2 weeks before, and they actually cancelled that today, just that they've decided that it's going to be too close to the wire, and they don't want to. What do you got? So they haven't cancelled. They've postponed it to early 2022, which is going to be another issue, because now I've signed up to do the GOAT again. We've got a whole lot of other events that are just going to happen there, so it's going to be a manic beginning of the year.
Yeah. So for me, like, I guess I have competed in a few. It was after I did the Spartan TV thing, I did my first beast. Started with a beast, a Spartan beast, to try and manage doing a vector in 2018 coast in Australia, which was dry and hot and awful. And then I took our 4 children to the Czech Republic, which is where my mother is from, and I did manage to do a sprint in the Czech Republic and do a super over in Austria. So I got to taste Spartan in a couple of different countries, which was, yeah, really cool, hey? And interesting to see, even though it's meant to be, you know, a standardized kind of race, there were differences in different countries. So I think Australia, you had to try and get the 8-foot wall. Just there was no male or female kind of version. It was everyone 8-foot wall. And in Austria, they gave you a nice step if you were a girl. I was like, oh, I hate the whole sexist thing, but mate, I'll take it when it helps me. So yeah, it was cool to see obstacle course racing in different parts of the world. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, the borders open up again. I'd love to race overseas again.
I'd love to go there. I follow the Romanian Facebook group of Spartan as well, and they certainly does look a lot different from what happens in here and in America and stuff. And I'm not sure if I sport when we spoke before, but me and Max are part of the New Zealand Obstacle Sports Association, trying to build up that. And we've been talking to Spartan New Zealand, Australia people, and also Spartan from the US. And looking at it, Europe is completely different. They don't talk to one another very much at all.
Oh, really? I didn't realise that. I still thought it was under the same.
No, they're all franchises. The Australian Chris, who manages the Australian one, he's got Australia and New Zealand, and it's a franchise because we were quizzing him about bringing DecaFit or one of those out. But he said he hasn't got the franchise for that. Someone else has. So.
Oh wow! I didn't realise that. Okay, news to me.
So you've done a few overseas races. You've done tough guy, tough girl.
Yeah.
I did see something about adventure. Have you done adventure racing too, or is that?
Yeah. So.
Oh, you did Spirited Women.
Yeah, I did Spirited Women. My friend won tickets one year because I'd seen the cost of it and had thought it sounded good, and then the cost was so high. I was like, oh my goodness, I don't think I can justify that on a race. So my friend won tickets, and she's like, would you make a team? I was like, heck yes, if I can get in for free. So we did that, and I actually really loved that as well. The added element of navigation and just different pursuits within, not quite like an obstacle course race, but has some similarities, and working in a team, and you've got to stick together. So I really enjoyed that, and we've done 3 now together, so you can see what happened. We got the first one for free, and then we got sucked on in to keep entering.
So you're doing the one next year?
Yes, so we'll do Hawke's Bay next year. I think it's in April, maybe.
April, yep. Yeah, one of my good friends, his wife signed up for it, and we've done a couple of Rogaines around here to help them with their navigation and that.
I mean, it's key.
She's pretty excited about it.
So key, and it's a great vibe. It's a really neat, well-run event, very well run.
So what distance do you, or time do you do?
In the Spirited Women?
Because it's a 6 hour and 12 hour and that, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've done the 6 hour, the medium course 3 times, and we got a hat trick. You know, we kept winning. I mean, so terrible and boring, isn't it, to win? But then we were like, oh, we probably should up the ante, and so we're going 12 hour this year, and I am dubious as to whether our bodies will cope. I don't know that we know how to go slowly, and I think with the 12 hour we might just need to pace ourselves, and I'm not sure that we're going to be able to do that. So we will see. We're all quite competitive as a team, so whether that results in a burnout or not, I don't know, but we have to try, don't we? We have to give it a shot.
Yes, you certainly do, and it certainly looks like a good race.
Yeah, it is really fun. It's a bummer there's not a men's version, but I guess there's a lot of men's races.
There's a lot of men's races out there. There's lots of other races out around. And you're a firefighter still, or?
Yes, volunteer firefighter. So I started that journey and just loved. I love the ability to help my community, but also there's quite an adrenaline rush when the alarm goes off that it's, time to get up to the station, and it's a little bit like racing, maybe. I can liken that too. And I really, really enjoy being a firefighter. My husband recently became one as well, so now we have to share the call outs. That's fun. Yeah, I know he's encroached on that, but he enjoys it as well, and it's good for us. So yeah, we like that.
Getting up in the middle of the night in the middle of winter wouldn't be much fun.
Yeah, they provide us with merinos and stuff. I can't complain too much. We get pretty good perks from volunteering. So
when I first met my wife, she was a volunteer ambulance driver, and she used to get out of bed. We were in Waihi, and some mornings I'd be going, no, why would you do it? I know it's a good thing to do for the community and all.
Yeah, that's right, for
middle
sure.
of winter, it was hard.
Yeah, it is hard. Yeah, I think if you're wired, like I don't mind waking up on a whim and just jumping out of bed, and the excitement of that kind of drives me. But some people, that's their worst nightmare. They're like, no, thank you, I want to sleep. So I guess it's not for everyone. That's a good thing.
So does it, just on that, do they have the volunteer firefighter games here in New Zealand?
Yeah, so I have heard of these, and I've not yet pursued that. But yeah, I've heard I think there's one around water, so you got to do hose type stuff, and then there's something maybe called the combat challenge. I think it's something like that, and they have to. Yeah, there's a time trial to like climb ladders, and that totally is.
That sounds totally you. From what you can say. Just my little brother and two of my uncles, they did it a lot when I was growing up.
Right.
And they were always going off on competitions during summer, and running up and down ladders and shooting each other with water and that sort of stuff. And it certainly sounded like good fun.
Well, if nothing else, it's good training, right? Like
yes.
for OCR races.
And I see you competed in Mount Maunganui AU, the Ultimate Athlete.
Yeah, that was cool to
find that.
An inaugural race. It was good. I don't know quite what I was expecting. I was like, is it going to be Spartan? Is it going to be more like tough guy gal with, the difference in obstacle difficulty? But I was quite impressed. I think they nailed it quite well for both beginners and people that would like a little bit more. And so, that was a tough race. So running on the sand, I have not done that.
Say that.
The sand was a killer, so that I was pretty exhausted. I mean, it was only a 10K loop, I think. When you did the two, it was only 10K, but man, that sand. Oh.
Yes, I have to admit the sand was not my best part. I hated the sand.
Yeah, it was awful.
And having done very little, I'd done most of the lead up to that because I was trained for the first date and then sort of slackened off thinking, they'll get cans again. Yeah. And then that running up the sand, my legs took weeks to get over that, but it was well done. It was really good. We had a good weekend down there. So.
Yeah, no, we enjoyed it as well. I went with a friend, and hopefully, more opportunities for races like that to go ahead will help to generate just more of a following for the sport in New Zealand. I'd love to see it gaining more momentum for sure.
Oh, yes, yeah, and that's one of the things I was going to have a chat to you about, because we, as part of the New Zealand Obstacle Sports Association, are trying to build the sport here with working with event organisers and everything like that. But one of the things we have noticed is trying to get women's involvement and kids' involvement. Everyone says, yep, but it's how to build that. So any ideas you have on that, we'd be keen to have input.
We should totally chat. I would love to nut out some ideas with you. I'm super passionate. So for me, like that, my journey back to strength, or even to strength, I don't think I was ever strong really when I compare it to pre-children. But that has just been such a game changer for me personally, and as a woman and as a mother and as an example to my children, like that women, can be strong and do things. I'm super passionate about others being able to discover that for themselves. And so that I trained as a PT in 2019, did my level 4-5 so that I can run classes and stuff and help people along that journey. But yeah, I'm so passionate about the thing with something like an obstacle course race is that you are doing it, you're not actually thinking about the fact that it's not like you're going to a workout per se. You are, even in the training up for it, it's really different and it's really fun. And I think the minute you add elements like that to someone's journey to fitness, you're just going to have such a different result because they're enjoying themselves. And if you love it, you're going to keep doing it. So yeah, I have some visions and dreams of what I'd love to see, happening as far as OCR and how to incorporate that in helping people discover strength and fitness. Yeah, totally. We need to talk.
Well, we definitely will. But just on that, it is how many times, it'd be interesting to get statistics from someone like Spartan and how many people go to a race, their first race, and have signed up before they leave the car park for their second race, because there is so many people I've met along the way, and they get to the first wall and I can't do this. And then at the end of the race, they've got back with their friends, they're in the festival area, and next minute they've signed up to another race in a month's time or something like that. It's a bit harder here in New Zealand, but
Yeah, that is hard in New Zealand because our races just aren't that close sort of in succession. But yeah, 100%. That was my experience. Totally. I was kind of like, this seems really hardcore. I don't know about mud, all of that heavy stuff. And then you just go, I did that, and man, that was awesome. And again, like you said, the camaraderie and the team vibe of people helping each other. It's just cool to have that kind of thing happening in society. So yeah.
It is. And I don't know if you had a chance to listen to our podcast we put out at the beginning of this week. They're the couple that run the Alpha Challenge, and they said that they'd never had done a Spartan race, and then someone convinced them, and they all went over as a group to Australia. And before they'd left to come back home, they had a group of, 30 of them, and they were off to Hawaii to do another one and back to Australia. They come back here and they've set their own, the Alpha Challenge up, which is 11th of December in Wanaka, which hopefully will go ahead.
That would be cool. I'd love to go do that. I haven't heard of them, but I'll totally check out the podcast and go see what they're about for sure.
No, it certainly sounds like it. That's their second race. They held their first one last year. COVID sort of put a damper on the first year. So
of course, damper on everything, old COVID.
COVID's made it hard for everything. Yes, it certainly has. Hopefully it's going to go away. I'm not sure how these red lights and green lights are going to work, but
wait and see, We have to wait and see.
Wait and see. All I want to do is be able to get out of the house.
Oh, I bet. 3 months in lockdown's a doozy. Yes. Man, oh man. Let's not talk about lockdown.
No. So you're an ambassador for Zeenya Clothing. How did that come about, and what do you do?
So when we did our first Spirited Women race, part of the winning kind of package was a Zeenya Clothing voucher. And so I was introduced to a world of fitness clothing with colour, because prior to that, it's all black. Women wear black. We try and hide any bumps and curves that we think are unsightly. And the minute I saw the website and the minute I put my first pair of Zeenya Clothing on, I was just sold. I was like, I love this. They're bright, vibrant, no one's hiding. They use real women, and I loved what they stood for. So I think even that at the very first time I saw Zeenya Clothing at the event itself, I remember going up to Chloe, the founder, and just kind of going, oh, look, if you ever need somebody to wear your stuff, because I could just see I can vibe with this company. I just love what they stood for. And they were kind of like, who the heck are you? And so I went away from that and just sort of slowly built my little collection up. And then they were doing an ambassador hunt, and I applied, and I was like, this is where I've come from when I first met you to now. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. I basically get to help spread the word about awesome fitness wear that does what it should do without women having to feel like they need to hide, and just embracing who they are and moving more, and just loving themselves. And I love that. So yeah, I'm very proud ambassador for Zeenya Clothing.
Yes, I must admit I got a discount voucher at an Xterra race.
Did you?
And I'm trying to think of her name. She's an ambassador as well.
Was it Eve? Could have been Eve.
Eve, isn't it?
Or could have been.
She was any rate. So my wife's now got a pair of, and they're the same. They're the only ones that have got any colour on.
Yeah.
The other ones, Lemon Lulu's might have a little white Lulu signal, but everything else is pitch black.
Nah, totally. And that's been the standard, I think, until things like Zeenya Clothing, companies like that have come forward and go, hey, actually, let's embrace who we are and live a bit brighter and a bit better. And I think that's cool. Did you feel gutted, though? Because did you get the voucher from the Xterra race? Were you like, what am I going to do with this? I'll have you know, my husband's put a pair on, and he did say they were very comfortable. So, you could just try your work on it and see how they go.
See how they go. No, she's got a minute. She's trying to get some colour. She does CrossFit. She hates running, hates the mud, so she's into CrossFit.
Oh, I bet she's.
But everyone, all the girls that go there, all the women that go there, are all black. It's you hardly see any colour. So
totally.
If you break into that, what do you call it? That domain there.
Yeah, totally. Well, we're trying to. And look, for some women, they just prefer black, and that's fair enough. But I definitely, if people are trying to hide and don't think they're good enough, I'm like, oh, we need to blow that out of the water. Like, we need to know that we're enough right now today. So, yeah, big message there.
Yes. Oh, that's good. Powerful Peach Fitness, that's a gym that you, or is it just an online training?
Yeah, so it's honestly like I used to run free fitness sessions. I kind of knew what I was doing, but kind of didn't. I thought I better professionalize this and actually get some training under my belt, which I'm very glad I did, because obviously, you know, fitness done wrong can be pretty bad. So, I started up Powerful Peach Fitness after completing my personal training course. And it's really just so low key. It's mainly for local people. There's nothing really online. Sometimes I'll do a free online session during the holidays or whatever that anybody can access. But for the most part, just trying to help people in the local community, which is quite a small community. We live in a village of about 60 people. So it's not a thriving metropolis. We live in the village of Rōremu in the central North Island, and National Park Township is just up the road, which has a few more people than Rōremu. But yeah, so I just run sessions for people as and when they want, and it's pretty cool.
So back onto OCR, which is what we were talking about. You did you do the Spartan race here in Auckland?
Yeah, I did. I did do the Spartan race in Auckland. What would I say about that? I was sad that it was in a race course. That made me a bit sad. I was like, oh man, there's so many places in New Zealand that would be phenomenal. But of course, taking it into account, like Spartans trying to crack into New Zealand, and they're trying to find somewhere central that most people can kind of access easily. So I tried to be gracious in my judgment. But you know, when I raced in Austria, I mean, we raced up the side of one of the Alps. It was just like, are you joking? This is crazy. So I was like, oh, New Zealand's got so many better places than Ellerslie Racecourse, but I still enjoyed the race. So
well, you'll see that they've moved it from Ellerslie, and it's now going to be in Barry Curtis Park.
Oh, I don't know Barry.
Which is not. It's a little bit better, but not over. I would personally thought Totra Park or something, one of the mountain bike parks, would be better. But
Yeah.
You don't know. It's all Auckland tourism is part of the deal, so they're organising your venue and everything. So, but yeah, that only came out recently that they're going to move it because they're redeveloping Ellerslie Raceway so that it's unavailable for the time of the race next year in May. So.
Got you. Yeah. I'd love to see one somewhere in Taupo or by the mountains. I mean, that would be so cool. But let's give it some time and see where the sport goes.
Definitely look up Alpha Challenge. I think you'll like that. Yep, I haven't been down and done the challenge, but I know where it is in Wanaka. And their online photos certainly look pretty spectacular. And the other one is Wero Warrior. Have you heard of that?
Oh, so I just read about that one after it had already taken place. But yes, I think that looks amazing. Yeah. Wero Warrior.
Yeah. And then there was another one that got cancelled recently, was the Dash. And we're trying to work with those guys to encourage, build their participation. But COVID has wrecked the Dash's last couple of years. He cancelled very recently because it was supposed to be last week, I think, or the week before.
Oh, gosh.
So, and a lot of the ones out of Wanaka and Queensland, they rely on Australians coming across because they can fly into Queenstown so easily.
Yes, that's right, of course. Yeah, it's pretty massive with our borders closed to get the numbers you need for events to go ahead.
It certainly is. It certainly makes it hard. What else? What other obstacle course, other races or things like that have you done? Or
I'm just trying to think what else there is to add to that. I've done the Tough Mudder. I only did that once, but I thoroughly enjoyed that. Had some doozy obstacles. I did that one in Auckland, I think it was. Yeah, Auckland.
At Hampton Downs?
Yes, at Hampton Downs. And so I think it was like a half marathon with all that, pretty much like a Spartan beast. But I enjoyed the obstacles and didn't like that it wasn't timed, because I am that, like, I just even want to know for myself, like, what was my time? But I loved that because it wasn't timed, the camaraderie vibe was like at maximum, because even if people were racing for their own watch, the general vibe was like, actually, it doesn't really matter, so we can really relax. Whereas other races where I am entering into either age group, or if I ever dare to enter elite, like, clearly I'm trying to do my my absolute best. So you don't get as much time to help each other, or you're not even allowed to. So it's nice having races where that's the focus. So yeah, I did enjoy that.
I must admit, I signed up to the elite in Ultimate Athlete at Mount Maunganui by mistake, but I got down there because they said everyone I was going with there saying, "Oh, we're racing about 10 o'clock," and I go, "No, I'm starting earlier than that. You sure you got the time right?" Yep. I got down there and they said, "You've signed up for elite, you know." And I went, "Okay, this is going to be fun."
So did you race elite, or did they?
Oh, well, I've had an elite T-shirt and everything like that. I would
have watched you racing because I had a friend running in the elite. So
okay.
I was there watching the elite start. And I did have FOMO, but I keep thinking, oh, man, I just need to up my training if I'm going to really gun it against some of these athletes. I mean, we're talking athletes, not who've come into the picture at like 40.
Yes, I know most of the top finishers had finished before I got round to that, begin my second lap. Once I got off the beach, I hated that beach.
Yeah, the beach was awful. I agree.
So I have got to do some. Well, I was going to start for Orio, but now I'm not sure I'll carry on with that. But do some beach running. But trying to find some soft sand around Auckland where we can stay within our little bubble is harder too.
You probably can't find a playground with a sand pit, can you? In that.
No. Well,
and even if
all the ones around here, we're around close, they've all got fences around them now. They went and fenced them all off. So.
Oh, my goodness.
So to stop people from using them.
Funny, could you just get some in your backyard? Turn your backyard into a sand pit.
Dog would love that. I don't know the rest of the family would, but...
I'm sure there's got to be a way to train for the sand. I'm going to go and look that up. I'll see if I can find some pearls.
Oh, there's some beaches down out west, north, Bethel's Beach, and they've got some big sand hills and everything.
But you can't get there, can you?
Yeah. I think we could probably stretch the limit now, but I'll just wait a while and see what happens. Because at the moment, it looks like the GOAT will be the next sort of event that I have this year. If UA is about, I think it's the last one that hasn't been cancelled. So.
Yeah. Watch that space. When's the GOAT? Is the GOAT late this year or early next year?
It's early next year. It's Australia Day weekend.
Okay. Oh, yeah, nice. No one else knows, but...
No one else knows. Oh, no, the group I go down with, they all know because I make sure I tell them.
Yeah. It's Australia Day.
Yeah. So we have a couple of questions we ask at the end. So is there any questions you would like me to ask that I haven't asked that you want to bring up?
Oh, I'm not prepared for that. No, I think I've shared pretty much everything that's kind of, I'm passionate about as far as the sport goes and a bit of my history. So, I think that's all good.
And the other one is really out of left field. If you could have coffee with any person in the world, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, can I have two people?
Okay.
The first one's purely because of this whole palaver with COVID. My mother is in the Czech Republic at the moment. For the foreseeable future, I just don't know when I'm going to see her next in person. So I would love a cup of coffee with my mum for obvious reasons. Aside from my mother, I think I'd have to say, and look, I feel like this is a cliche, but probably Jesus. I just think, I reckon that was a pretty wise guy, and I'd like to just sit and listen to some wisdom coming from that guy's mouth. I think that's who I'd have coffee with. If he drinks coffee.
If he drinks coffee, yes. Not sure it was around them days.
I don't know. Anyway, he'd probably just, turn water into wine or something while I had my flat white. But quizzing him would be pretty cool.
Okay, so where can people get in touch with you? I'll put your Instagram and Facebooks on the notes, but is there any email or any other way people can contact you if you want?
So my email is not a very professional one. It's just my personal one, but if people want to, they can email me. It's HAKY 8 KEN@hotmail.com. Such an old email. But otherwise, you can personal message me through Facebook or through Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. And we will chat again soon.